everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capeless Collective. I'm your host, Kim, and today I am very excited because I have another guest, and today we are going to be talking about how to balance the role of being a mom, a wife, person, a coworker, just all the things that we have to balance. So I am going to introduce this woman to you all today, and her name is Marina Rogers. Marina Rogers is a passionate journal author and content creator, best known for her book, Balancing Your Heart and Spirit, a devotional journal, available on Amazon. Through her work, she encourages wives and mothers to find a healthy balance in life using God's Word as their guide. Marina teaches individual and group parenting classes and serves as the Prevention Education Manager for the Georgia Network to End Sexual Assault. Married for 20 years to an amazing cook and personal trainer, Marina is also the proud mother of 3 teenagers who keep life busy and exciting. She and her family reside in West Georgia. In her free time, Marina enjoys journaling, traveling, and making memories with her family. She's also an active content creator on TikTok as Mama Transform, where she empowers wives, mothers, and individuals. A Capeless Collective girls, welcome Marina Rogers. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So, I like to give people the opportunity to share anything else about themselves that they want to share that you do not feel that was really captured your true essence that you want people to know about you.
I will just say that I'm a God's girl, but I am also a laid back people person. I would call myself an introvert slash extrovert. Um, Sometimes I have to be by myself, and sometimes I love to be around people. So it's a balance between the two. That's just me. I'm very sensitive to a lot of things. A lot of people call that an empath. I do see my a lot of my characteristics like that. Like I don't like violence. If something is popping off and something is getting too heavy for me, I have to separate myself. But I still love people. And so I'm learning to balance that. There's some things that I just can't be around, even though I think that I'm ready to be there. I have to learn how to separate myself and then come back when it's safe, when I feel safe.
Yeah, there's wisdom in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that. Everything isn't for everybody. So sometimes your intuition, when your body is telling you you don't need to be somewhere or some person or something is not safe, then
Yeah.
you're probably right. So there's wisdom in that. And I love that you said that you're a God's girl. So I am so glad to have you here today. All right, so we're going to dive right into this conversation about how we balance being a wife, a mom, and all the other many roles we have to play as Black women. So, first question for you, Marina. Do you think that you have balance as a wife, a mom, as a sister, an employee, and all those other many roles that you take on in your life?
I would say no. I would say that because balance, like, in order to have balance, you got to have imbalance. Like, when you put something on the scale, you have to figure out what is working for it to balance. So there are times where I have balance in maybe my spiritual life, but I may not have balance in my physical life. So I'm always trying to figure out what areas that I need to kind of work on so that I can have balance, but I always recognize that it's gonna it's not always going to be a straight line. I'm going to have some times where I'm not working out or I can't eat right or it's the holidays and I'm eating a little bit more and missing a lot of workouts. But, I might be spending more time with God at the time or I might be balancing, my finances better. So it's like at different times I have balance in different areas, but the full balance, that is always a work in progress.
I'm so glad you said that, and that was something that I was going to say. I feel like balance is one of those things that we'll always be working on, and it's never a place that you get to. It's just always something that you're working towards.
Working
So you're
towards.
always trying to find balance. Of course, you want to have some semblance of balance across the board in your life, but having that perfect, like you said, where it's balanced completely across the board, I don't know if that thing exists. But for me, I know that I can tell when things are terribly off in particular areas and I need to address them, or when
Right.
things are maybe not perfectly balanced, but everything is existing in a good space. And so for me, I think that that is the goal that I go for, that everything is existing in something very close or akin to balance. And
Right.
so, for those of you who are listening, I want you to. I'm glad that Marina was honest and said that her life is not perfectly balanced. There are times when she experiences a great deal of balance in one area or one aspect, and then there are some times when she may be devoting more energy or attention to one thing in order to take care of that because it takes precedence and priority. And so a lot of our conversation will be about how to prioritize and how to get closer or how to work towards a more balanced life. So I'm glad you said that because that I hope that gave a lot of people some reassurance that it's okay that you don't have your life perfectly balanced and everything is not always, perfectly in
Perfect.
simpatico, like it's not always all working because you're juggling a lot of balls, so that's hard to pull off. So for you, what does balance look like? So what does balance in your home, or balance from a spiritual perspective, or just balance for you as Marina, a person, what does that look like for you?
To me, balance is checking those boxes off in a few areas. So your physical, I'm looking at my physical. I'm looking at my emotions, how I respond to things. I'm looking at my physical. I said physical already. I'm looking at my mental health. What's going on with my mental? Am I thinking clearly? Are my thoughts clear? Am I doing healthy things? How am I responding to my kids when things get crazy? How am I responding to my husband? So those are the areas that I look at in order to make sure that I have balance. That's that mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. And once I check those off, I'm like, okay, I got a little bit of balance. So that's pretty much what I look at when I'm trying to seek balance in my life as a mother, as a wife, just as, going to work every day because I can have it's a whole different world. But how am I responding to my team? I'm a team leader. How am I responding to them when they text or they're getting on my nerves? So it's like that balance of those different areas that I look at.
So if you had to, I want you to rank your priorities. So rank your priorities starting with the thing that you prioritize the most in your life, and then ending with the thing that you feel like, I'm not going to say it's not as important, but in your list of priorities there are simply other things before it. So how do you prioritize in your life?
So prioritizing first is gonna be my relationship with God. I'm not gonna move without, you know, direction from God and talking to Him and making sure that that is covered. That's top priority. Then I'm gonna kind of look at my relationship with my husband because I'm not necessarily skipping myself because when I look at my relationship with God and the spiritual, that includes me. So that's covered. So then I look at my relationship with my husband because I did get married and he was there, before the children. So I'm looking at my relationship with him and then the children. And I guess under the children would come my relationships, my relationship with my parents, my relationship, with my siblings and those closest friends that I can call on when stuff hits the fan, those people. So that would be a little under my children. So the job and the roles, being a parent educator and being a prevention educator, I would say that it's important, but it comes last because at the end of the day, it's going to be there. Anybody can fill those roles that I play at my job. I don't want to be replaced as a mother, as a wife, so that job and those things, they're last because they can put somebody else in a blink of an eye. So yeah. That's down there.
I think I would have to agree. I would probably prioritize my life probably the exact same way. I definitely think that, your relationship with God is going to impact all of your relationships. So you have to prioritize that. And then, excuse me, I like how you said you are included in that relationship with God. And I also feel like, excuse me, we are addressed in all of those areas as well. So not even with your relationship with God, but you're prioritizing yourself when you prioritize your husband. You prioritize yourself when you're prioritizing your kids. You prioritize yourself when you're prioritizing your relationships. Because all of those things, if they are strong relationships, and they should be if you're pouring to them as you should, then you're reaping the benefits of those as well. So you spending time with God, you are growing, you are improving yourself, you are improving your well-being, you are strengthening your relationship, building your spirituality, which will in turn impact how you have a relationship with your husband and your kids. So I feel like it all kind of connects together and works for our ultimate good. And so it is, I feel like we are included, even if we don't specifically say, I prioritize myself, you are prioritizing yourself when you are pouring into those things, because you're going to reap the benefits ultimately anyway. Just my thinking on that. So cool. I like that. So let's transition a little bit. There has been a lot of conversation on the podcast streets, on social media streets, just all over, talking about invisible labor. And so there's all this conversation about invisible labor and women feeling like the men in their lives, or their partners, don't necessarily understand all the things that they do because of this thing called invisible labor. So for those of you who don't know, invisible labor would be considered all the jobs that people do that may not be assigned the title job. So, I mean, back in the day, we might have called them chores. Sometimes it's just taking care of your kids. But hey, people gave it a name. It's called invisible labor. So that would be like you get home from work, but then you have all these other jobs to do, like cook dinner, help the kids with the homework, do the laundry, check all the emails from the kids' teachers, check the kids' grades, help the kids with the spelling bee, just all the things, all those other things that you do as a parent. They have now been given the title of invisible labor. So I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on invisible labor?
Girl, that invisible labor will kick your behind. So I invisible labor. So as a wife and as a mother, it just seems as this is not every woman, but we are natural nurturers, and that invisible labor is going to fall on you just because we want things to be a certain way. And so I have accepted that invisible labor is just a part of my role, but I get to prioritize that, and I keep up with a list. So my invisible labor includes, you know, with the husband, they don't like to go to the doctor, that they don't like to do those things that maybe we know, I need to get my get my mammogram, or my teeth clean, things like that. Now I give props to my husband with his dental and all that. He'll take care of it, but the other things as they get older, that falls on my list of the well checks for the teenagers. And so I have accepted that, okay, at the end of the day, I want a healthy man. I want my husband to live long. I want us to live long. And I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of grace on him and going to add that to my list. But it's going to take time. So it may, making his appointment may go under the children, because at the end of the day, he can make his own appointment. But I'm going to make their appointment because they cannot go in on their own. They're not paying their own copay. But he will get there, and I will put him on the list. But I have accepted that. And I think that with that invisible labor, sometimes we got to give our spouses a little grace, because there's some, even though my husband may not have a lot of invisible labor, he does things. He has things that he thinks about. He has a lot of physical things that I dare not would do. I'm not taking out trash. I'm not cutting the grass. If that oil needs changing, if that tire goes flat, I'm not doing it. Because I know I don't have the capacity. But maybe he doesn't have, the capacity to think about, oh, I should go get my prostate checked. So just giving grace to my spouse and knowing that some things, it's invisible, it's mental. Thinking about those birthday parties, thinking about those college scholarships, those deadlines and all of those things. I make a list, I check it off. I keep it in my purse. I fold it up. When I can look at it again, I'll look at it again. Even the dog, getting the dog shots, all of that falls on me, but it's on the list, and I'm gonna get to it when I can get to it. Prioritizing those things and giving your spouse a little bit of grace in that area. That's how I look at invisible labor.
I always say to my husband, the devil's in the details. Like, that's where the mess is. Ooh, the details are. And I feel like I'm speaking in general terms here, people, so bear with me. I feel like men are big picture thinkers. So I believe like God gives men vision. They give them vision. And that's why women are helpmeets, because we are very good at execution. Like, my husband can have an idea, but I will sit with him and I will partner with him and we will talk through the process, because I'm very detail oriented. He might be thinking about something like, okay, we have remodeled some houses. So he'll be thinking about the big picture. So he's the price of the house, he's the price of the entire project. He's finding a quality contractor. But me, I'm all in the details. What wood is the floor made out of? What type of pipes are we gonna use? So I have the gift of being able to zero in on things that people might consider to be minor, but all of the little things add up to the big thing.
Yes.
And so I feel like for me, I am the one who is thinking about all the little details that make the big picture, which is our family, work. And so I think I do end up doing a lot of those things that you mentioned as well. But when you said that about your husband doing things too, I feel like men also have a lot of invisible labor that we don't think about. So just the labor of leading a family. Now, I say that because I'm talking about a good husband, a Christ-centered. I'm not talking about all the men out there doing the things. I'm talking about the man that live in my house,
Right.
And the man at your house. So a good man is also shouldering his own invisible labor. It just may look a little different than the labor that we shoulder.
Right.
I know in my house, my husband pays, he keeps a schedule. He makes sure that all of the bills are paid. I don't know when the trash bill is due. I don't know when it's due. I don't know.
God bless.
I don't know when it's coming. I don't know. I know it gets paid. I know the lights are on every month, but that is something that he chose to take on to make sure that it gets done. And so I think with invisible labor, I want you to talk about this too. I think resentment comes in when there hasn't been a conversation. There isn't support given when needed, and when people aren't working to their strengths. So for me, I can be a little bit forgetful. And so it's great that my husband takes care of the bills.
Yes.
So I think that the resentment can come in if people don't feel like they're getting the proper amount of support, or there's this imbalance, or people aren't operating in a place that's a strength for them, because it's just going to make them stressed and more anxious. I think you're about to say something though.
I wanted to say was my husband helped me understand that, because we do have those conversations. Because I can give him, or I'm thinking I'm going to give him 1,000 things that I have going on in here. And he told me this one day. He said, if our house is invaded, somebody comes at this door to, try to kill us all, I am going to be the first person standing at the door. He said, you gonna be behind me and the kids gonna be behind me. And that made me realize a lot, that there's a lot of, mental or invisible labor that goes on in his mind, of having to protect not just one person, but just me his children as well. And so that helped me understand a lot. And we sit down and we have those conversations. And like you were mentioning your husband doing the bills, it's on the flip side for us. I do all the bills. He throws the money in the pot and I have to figure out where it's going to go. It does it gets draining. But like I said, accepting the fact this is what I have to do. And then I look at it like this. His saving is spectacular compared to mine. His money management is spectacular compared to mine. So me taking on the bills is teaching me how to grow in that area. So I've accepted that too. It's growth for me because although he could sit there and pay all of the bills, it's given to me so that if something were to happen to him, I would know how to save. Because right now, ain't no money being saved if Marina has to do it, and that's his job. So sometimes we just look and assess things and say, okay, well, yes, this is invisible labor, but what is his invisible labor? And just accept it.
Yeah,
That's
like you
all it
said,
is.
you got to sprinkle some grace on there.
Yes.
And then again, we are talking about one, we're both married women, so there's that. And we are in healthy relationships as well. So if you are in a different situation or a different space, then there may have to be greater conversation had. But if you feel like you're in a pretty solid situation, whether you're married or you're just in a partnership, and you feel like there's an imbalance in the invisible labor and all those tasks that have to happen in order to make your home fully function, then have a conversation. And what you want to talk about is what your strengths are. Like we both talked about what our strengths are and how we utilize those strengths. And then when you feel like, even if you're operating in what is a strength for you, if you feel like you need additional support, you have to be able to say that. And
Yes.
sometimes, I think, we're all going. We're trying to get the job done. And as I said, as we both said, men have this pressure that we don't necessarily think about because we're women and it's not our jobs to necessarily think about it. And so there's that. And then just again, talking about this is what I need. This is drowning me. This is too much. I need your help here. I need your support here. Especially if, like, I know for us, like, since we've had small kids, because I worked in education, I know the ins and outs of education. And so my husband doesn't. So he's always been the person to be like, okay, you're going to do that. You got that. When it comes to things as far as education goes. But if there were ever a time where I felt like I need you to lean into this a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
then I could just say, hey, babe, I need you to lean in a little bit more. Download that Infinite Campus on your phone, and I need you to put a reminder in your phone to check these grades once a week. I need you to help me out there. So sometimes it's as simple as a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we have to extend grace and acknowledge that there are things that our partners are shouldering as well that we might not necessarily see. Now this conversation would look different, I guess, if you were single, but we're speaking from the perspective of people who are in relationships. So, I think if you sit down and have a conversation with your partner or your spouse, you would see that there are also things that maybe you, don't notice that they're doing. Like
Right.
if the dishwasher breaks or when the car needs a oil change and all the things, checking the tire pressure in your car, so again, just extend grace and communication is going to always help better things.
Always.
So that's just our little 2 cents on that. I did want to ask you though, has there ever been a time where you felt or experienced resentment because of the imbalance in invisible labor?
Yeah. A lot of times, you know, but it takes going over that in your mind and then having that conversation and not being scared to say that these are my feelings. This is how I feel. And when you're in a healthy relationship and they understand that. But then again, there may be some times where that person doesn't have the capacity. They validate your feelings, but maybe they can fill that space somewhere else. But yeah, a lot of times it comes in spurts.
Hey, Been there. And I'm not going to say I'm
Yes,
completely over. Even though I be giving all this
exactly.
great spiel about communicating and all the things, there are times when I'm like, hey, mister,
Right.
look at here.
Exactly.
I need, I need you to, I think for me, I think anytime I have experienced resentment, it has been in relation to our kids.
Mm,
I think that my husband in particular does a good job with like the house stuff. Like that's never been a problem for me. He does all the house things, wash, cook. I'll cook a little bit, but that's not my ministry. But I mean, like he does all those things. So for me, it has always been with the kids, and I think for him, it was because he grew up with just a mom. So I think that a lot of men may see the women doing everything and think, my mama did it all, she could do it too. Or, that's what mamas are supposed to do. It's like, that's what your mama had to do.
right.
But I'm sure if she had a partner, she wouldn't have done all those things, or not least chosen or willingly done them. And so for me, it has been those things related to the kids. I'm trying to think of something outside of school because I said that a couple times. I'll say, like, like just having difficult conversations with the kids,
With the kids, yeah.
or like quality time type of things. For it's like we do it as a family. For him, I'm like, no, take the initiative. You can schedule something to take your daughters out and go on a date, or
Yeah.
you can, because there are conversations that you need to have that I am not suited to have because I'm not a man. I've never been a man. But you know what a man is and how they're going to, approach relationships and all those things. And so I have definitely experienced times of resentment in my younger years. I probably didn't handle it the best. It probably didn't come out as, hey, I need your help.
Ooh,
If you
honey.
could if you could lean in. Nah, it was like
Yeah,
not nice.
you were probably like me. I used to throw things and wisdom, and I was told you had to stop throwing things, and I was like, you're right, you know, but that wisdom with that time, yeah, you learn how to approach and say, hey, let's talk about this. How can we make this better? Because I'm not the best wife and mother I can be alone. I need your help. I need you to help me with this. How can you help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they'll listen. They'll listen.
Yes. I was never a thrower,
Girl,
Miss Empath.
hey, I picked up a lot of stuff that I had to, that my
Yeah,
husband was
I
like, have
understand.
you ever thought that you might need to work on that? It very early in the marriage though.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know how to balance that stress. My kids were what they call doorsteps. I had 3 kids in 5 years, less than 5 years. And it was a lot. And so yeah, I've grown a lot.
I was this tongue, the power of life and death. Um, I know a lot of
Swift
words.
with it. You swift with that
I
tongue.
know a lot of words. I'm a former English teacher, so I have a whole
Oh, wow.
dictionary in my head. I know a lot of words and some four-letter ones, and
But hey,
I
you
used to
learn. You live
use
and
them
you
well.
learn.
Yeah, but growing better. Okay, so I'm glad you brought up your kids because that's where I want to go next.
Okay.
So you, like me, have been married for 20 years. Congratulations.
Patience.
How did you manage being or finding balance being a wife and a mom? How did you manage to find the balance? So, if you could, I want you to think back a little bit. So, I'm going to kind of break this down for you. I want you to think about it because we're speaking to women who are in a lot of different places in their lives. So, some people might be listening, they have very small kids. Some people might be listening and they're like we are. We have, teenagers or older kids. Some people are empty nesters and everybody's gone. So I want you to think back a little bit, if you can, to what things were like when they were little. Did you have that balance, or when do you feel like you found it? So speak to how you juggled it, and then where you feel like you kind of hit your stride with, you know, having a good balance for the most part. with being a wife and mom?
Being a wife and mom. So, as a young mother, starting out with, three kids, five, let's say 5, 3, and I think I had balance. I think I was more in survival mode. How do I support these kids? How do I keep them alive? Not so much of how do I look good as a mother, but how can I do the best to keep these kids, alive, and what society wants me to do. Making sure they're at school on time, making sure they're in school, making sure when they're sick, I take them to the doctor. And then I think maybe when I was probably a mother for about between 7 and 10 years, I started to find balance. Because I start noticing it's not just keeping them alive and taking them to the doctor, making sure they go to school. It's also their well-being, who they are inside. What seeds am I sowing? When I yell at them in the morning to get ready, how am I sending them to school? It went beyond just surviving. It went their well-being, their emotional, their spiritual. I start thinking a little bit deeper into the type of mother that I was and what I was sowing into my kids. So I think around the time when my oldest was about before she left elementary, so she had to be upper elementary, when I decided, hey, there's a little bit more to this. The words that you speak, they're watching you, they're watching everything. I need to find balance in the well-being of the family, not just us surviving. And so now, as teenagers, my oldest is 19, my youngest is 14, that I keep adding on to that because we have those life skills. I have those life skills that I also have to add into that spiritual, the seeds that I sow into them. Do you know how to tell time? Do you know what a healthy relationships looks like? You see mom and dad, but do you know what a younger healthy relationship looks like? And supporting them in their relationships and not telling them what to do, but maybe making suggestions, because the empty nesting, it will be here one day, but I want to support them as they develop into young adults. Yeah.
So when you were a mom with younger kids and you were just surviving, what was your relationship like then?
Relationship as a wife,
Huh?
I would say surviving surviving the marriage, just being married, thinking that I could change my husband. I'm raising these little kids, telling them what to do. I was including him in that. Oh, I'm gonna change him. He going to church every Sunday. I'm gonna make him, and if he don't, I'm gonna throw a tantrum. So I was including him, and so our relationship, it didn't look, it was healthy, but it didn't look that pleasant because I was including him into, raising kids, and we're not supposed to raise our husbands. And so that's what that relationship looked like. It was like, okay, I got 4 kids when in actuality I had 3, but I was trying to raise him as well. And so that definitely wasn't pleasant for him. I know it wasn't.
Yeah,
So
been
a
there,
lot of
been there,
growing.
tried that. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Don't try to raise that man, child.
Exactly. No, ma'am.
So, do you feel like, as far as where your attentions, like I know, like a lot of moms, especially when you have a baby, you pour all of your energy and attention into that baby, or when they're little kids. Do you feel like you also had imbalance there? Like, were you more focused and were your attentions more directed towards your children? Did your husband ever express feeling neglected or overlooked? Or do you feel like you had some balance there? Like you were still able to juggle that and keep some level of, I'm not going to say equal, but there was equity in the time that you spent with your kids and with your husband,
Hmm.
and then being yourself.
Would just be a beautiful question for him. I don't think I can answer that. And the reason why I say that is because, I had them back to back. And so I felt more guilty of not giving the oldest all the attention because boom, here comes another one, and boom, here comes another one. So I'm a very clingy wife. So I know I probably, was up under him a lot, because that's my personality. But that would be a good question that I need to ask him, how he felt, because I felt that I was trying to balance everybody because of the ages of my kids. And for people who have multiple kids and maybe they're close in age, that's just something to evaluate. How am I giving each person what they need and then taking care of myself? It can become a big task, you know?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, I'm gonna venture. Look, ask him, but I'm gonna venture and say you must have been doing a good job, because if you weren't, they will let you know, because I didn't do
Yeah,
a good job, and my husband definitely let me
he
know.
let you know.
He was like, hey, I
I'm
know.
over here.
Hey, right. You have a husband. You don't have a baby. But I don't know. For me, it's like I go into, well, one, if you have a baby, you're in survival mode anyway. Like you feel like you just almost died and you're just
Right.
trying to fight back, and then you're trying to take care of this baby. And for me, I don't know. I do feel like I probably just go like deep, deep, deep mom mode.
Mm,
Like, you're fine. You're an adult. You can take care of yourself.
right.
Get over there in the corner and leave me and my baby alone.
We don't need you.
We do. We need
We
you now,
do, but not right
because
now.
somebody got to keep these lights on.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna say you probably did a good job, because you
We
didn't hear
I'm gonna
anything.
ask. I'm gonna
Because
ask Mr. Rogers.
I heard stuff. I heard stuff. I heard like, hey,
Right.
don't don't forget about me.
Exactly.
So I did not have balance there. That is something that I definitely had to learn. And for me personally, I feel like it got so much easier as they got older. But I also feel like, see, for me, because we had our kids spread out, so it was like, okay, have a kid, you grow the kid up a little bit, so you're able to, easily incorporate the kid into your life. And so things kind of, they're a little off, and then they're back, and then you go this long period with them being fine, and then bam, you throw another baby in there. And so for me, I feel like because it happened that way and not all at once, we would be in this space where we figured out how to incorporate the kids into our lives. Our relationship is still, strong. We're paying attention to each other, devoting the amount of time we need to each other, and then bam, here comes a baby.
Here come
And so
another
it
baby.
throws it into this,
Back in survival
tornado.
mode. Yeah.
Right. Whereas for y'all just had this long stretch all at once where it was just chaos and
Yeah.
confusion, and then you got out of it. But for us, we would like go through
Back at
period.
it again.
Yeah, so it was crazy. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of wind the conversation down. So looking back on, all you have experienced as a wife and a mom, an employee, and a friend, what would you say to somebody who is juggling all these things right now? What advice would you give to them now that you have the hindsight and the wisdom? What would you tell somebody who's in the thick of it right now to kind of help them? Like, what steps could they possibly take? What are some things that they need to consider? What would you say to them to help them sort of find a more balanced life? Because we've already established that balance is a process that we're always growing towards. Okay.
So what I would say for a mother and wife who may be seeking balance is, I would say that you have to look at self-care more as a priority for your well-being, and not so much as treating yourself. Self care sometimes can be mistaken for, oh, I'm treating myself. I'm getting my nails done. I'm getting my hair done. I am going, eat my favorite dessert, and or paying attention to the outside all the time. Pay attention to the inside. Pay attention to your thinking patterns. And then look into the different areas of your life to see where you can improve. So you have your, spiritual, because everybody's different. You may always have your spiritual, it may have always been a part of you, but then there's some other areas that you may find yourself, it was a bad week, or it's been like a rocky month. So why? Look at the different areas of your life and see where you can improve. And also look at your strengths. You know, how can I not get stronger in this area? Because as mothers and wives, I'll tell you, I have some weaknesses, but I don't focus on my weaknesses. I focus on my strengths. How can I get stronger? Because you can be strong in an area, but you continue to grow and build a muscle, you can continue to get stronger in areas. And so the weaknesses, okay, I'm going to remain weak in this area. There's nothing I can do about it. But here, what are the strengths? I'm a good cook, or I do support my children good academically, but my husband may be helping them with the sports and stuff. So I'm gonna hang over here in this side. And so just accepting things. I would tell one of the steps I would say is give yourself some grace. If you mess up, or if you can't get to it, or that's your weakness, apply grace to yourselves. I think sometimes we give our children, definitely we give them a lot of grace, and sometimes we get to a point in our marriage we give our husband grace, but sometimes we leave ourselves out. Give yourself some grace. Oh, you didn't make dinner, you had to order pizza. Hey, keep it moving. Give yourself a lot of grace as a mother and a wife, because that balance, if you're balanced, you're perfect. And we know somebody that tries to appear perfect, there's something not right. So that's exactly what I would tell them.
That's good. That was good. You're the second person to talk about how our maintenance practices may not be the best self care tactics to use for us.
Yeah,
So,
it's fun. It's fun. We're treating ourselves. But that's the outside. What's going on the inside? How are you nurturing yourself, to be a better person?
yes.
That's the self-care, and that's hard. It's easy to, Kim, meet me at the spa. Let's do this and that. That's fun and that's easy. But that real self-care, that takes a lot of work. I shouldn't have responded that way. Why did I respond that way? Why am I thinking this way? Have I healed from trauma? And just recognizing, the inside. That's that true self-care.
Very good. Very good. All great tips. All great tips. So,
Thank you.
if you think that balance is like this destination that we're
Hmm.
all trying to get to, then just maybe reframe your thinking that we are always working towards becoming more balanced, but it's not necessarily a place that you get to and you're done. Okay, fine, my life is balanced, I did the things, my life is balanced, because something is always going to come along and disrupt that balance. And
Yes.
so you have to be able to respond, you have to be able to bend, to shift, to pivot in order to keep things afloat. And so that's why, having those coping skills and strategies and working on, bettering yourself, because you'll be able to better respond when those things arise. And so that is wonderful advice for a woman who is seeking more balance. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that.
I wanted to
So,
say something to you, Kim.
yes.
How proud I am of just the Capeless Girl Collective. When I was looking at it, I was like, what is she really trying to say? And so when I start thinking of the spiritual side of it, I start really thinking about, the cape, and why we don't need a cape. And so found one of the verses in the Bible I want to give to you.
Yes.
It's 2 Corinthians 12:9-10. So my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. And so, why you need a cape? Why we need a cape? Our weaknesses, we give it to Him, and His power is made perfect. So it makes a lot of sense for us to put the cape away. We don't need a cape. We don't need to try to save everybody. We have a savior. So I just want to let you know that I love it. I love everything that you're doing, and I want you to keep it up. And I am available anytime you want me to join you.
thank you. Because we didn't even delve into work and all that stuff. So I would love for
Right.
you to come back so we can continue this conversation because I feel like there's just so much to
It's so
say.
much.
When you're talking about being a black woman and
Mm,
all the many, many roles that we have to play and
right.
how we are able to, strike some balance, even if it's,
Mm-hmm.
not perfectly balanced. I feel like what a lot of women do, especially if we're in our superhero, if we're in our strong black girl era still, and we haven't quite made the decision to transition to take the steps to become capeless. I feel like we don't ask for help. We
Mm,
don't like to admit when we're wrong. And we also try to just figure it out and get it all done. But what I love about this space, and one of the main reasons I wanted to create this space, is because we can have conversation and be transparent and share with other people that we don't have it figured out, and some of the things that we didn't have figured out before we have figured out now. So as a community we can share this information because we are not in our 30s anymore.
right.
We aren't newlyweds. We aren't new moms. And so, from that aspect, we do have stories to share and we have wisdom to pour into younger women. But then also, there's a woman somewhere who has information to pour into me and to pour into you
Exactly.
as well. And so, hopefully, this community will just continue to grow and be a space to give people permission to
Mm-hmm.
not live in shame. I read a lot of Brene Brown books, and she talks about shame a lot and how
Mm,
shame holds us back from being our best selves and really having strong, true connection with people. And we have to be okay with not being able to do it all without knowing everything.
right.
And we have to reshape and reframe our thinking because as black women, that is how we have existed in the world. And a lot of times it was out of necessity. We had to have
Mm-hmm.
it all together. We had to figure it out. We had to make a way out of no way.
Mm-hmm.
And while those things did serve us, they are not what's best for us, especially when we're talking about our mental health and wellness. And
Correct.
so I am very much concerned about the mental health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness as black women because we deserve peace, we deserve grace, we deserve
Yes,
softness.
we
We
do.
deserve to relish in our self care and loving on ourselves because it makes us better people. I'm always saying it's not self care, self love is not selfish because you can't pour from an empty cup. And so
Can't.
we have to do a better job of making sure that we are full
Mm-hmm.
so that we can pour. And so that's like the reason why that is where my heart is for
Yes.
this work. So thank you so much for everything that you said. So as we wrap up, let us know where we can find you, how we can get in touch with you. I know you're on TikTok, it's Mama Transform, but
Mm-hmm.
just share everything. Talk about your journal. I have a copy. If you don't have a copy, I see a copy behind you. I don't know if you want to grab
Yeah,
that one,
I
if you have
do.
another one. But yeah,
Yes.
share all the things so the
So,
Capeless girls know where to find you.
yes, so I am definitely, you can find me on TikTok as long as TikTok exists. As Transform, you can find me with Bible study, devotional videos. That's pretty much what I do on that platform. Sometimes I go into, tips on being a wife and parenting and things like that. So that's Mama Transform, Momma is how I spell Mama Transform. Also Mama Transform on IG, on Instagram. I think the platform really that you can find me the most is on TikTok. I need to do better at that. Facebook, if you look up Facebook groups, definitely I have a group called Balancing Your Heart and Spirit. And we just, do the same thing. We talk about balance, spiritual, just encouraging wives and mothers. My journal, Balancing Your Heart and Spirit, it is on Amazon. And then you can contact me for a copy as well. But right now it's on Amazon. So yeah. And it's a devotional. It had one of the favorite things about my journal is what we were talking about earlier is the balancing. Just balancing yourself and taking time to create a graph So one day it may be all over the place, and then the next day it might be a little bit more level. So that's my favorite thing. And then using God's word just as your family. How can God, how can the Holy Spirit, how can you invite Jesus into your day to help you balance those things? Because we cannot do it alone. You know, we can't. So yeah. So if you are a person that likes to journal and reflect, that you may want to check out that journal.
I love all the guided work in this book too.
Mm-hmm.
As I was looking through it, because sometimes sometimes you need to just get your feelings out, but then sometimes you need those things to trigger or inspire reflection and guide your thinking. And I like that there are devotionals and sort of like activities to kind of steer and guide your thinking. So that was one of the things that I was like, oh, okay, when I looked at
Thank
it,
you.
because it gives you a chance to really settle in and think about some things in particular, and not just, because sometimes when you journal, it's just I hate this, I hate that, this got on my nerve, this, that.
Right.
But your journal is leading you to, it's more productive because it's leading you somewhere,
Thank you.
to be better. So if you haven't, get yourself a copy. Get yourself a copy on Amazon. It has her face on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got the right book.
Right.
All
That's
right.
me.
Well, I have enjoyed you, and you already promised to come back, so that means
Did. Yes,
coming
ma'am.
back. Because
Yes,
I
ma'am.
do want to talk about, again, the work-life balance, and also just about some of the work that you do, because you work with parents as
Mhm.
well. And so just digging more into that, because I think a large portion of our demographic and audience are parents. And so
Yes,
that, parenting is a doozy, trying to figure
it
out how to
is.
manage your life and not let your life turn into being all about your kids.
Mm,
So we definitely need to have more conversation. But
definitely.
that is it for today for this episode, Capeless Girls. Thank you all so much for joining us on this conversation, talking about how to balance. And now we understand that, balance is not a destination. It is a work in progress. So we're always working to be balanced. So I hope that you are able to take some of the information that we shared today and be able to apply it to your life, and that you're able to find balance in more areas of your
Yeah.
life. So thank y'all. Again, I am Kim. Remember, capes off and rest up, and just have a wonderfully blessed, amazing day. And I will see y'all next time on the next episode. And of course, I will post my socials. So please remember to like, subscribe, and follow me on all my social media platforms. Again, have a great one. Bye.